Is it possible to have an engaged workforce during a global pandemic? Cary, what do you think?
I think it's possible, and it's the good news is, had this happened 30 years ago, we wouldn't have had the platforms to communicate with one another. I think it's important that we do that and that we actually do it visually. Put our teams together visually, whether it's Zoom or some other platform, so we see them. But also, and even more important than that, is people are kind of worried. They're feeling isolated, psychologically and socially isolated. And I think it's important for every line manager from shop floor to top floor to be calling their direct reports 2, 3, 4 times a week to see how they are, just one-to-one. So you're going to have your meetings as a team and keep them together in some way or another. And like the old British Dunkirk spirit stuff, I think we'll get through this, but some individuals will have difficulty coping with this. Therefore, it's the line manager who has to ensure that they actually have eyeball to eyeball contact, talk to them as individuals, as people, what's troubling them, not just about their work.
I think I would echo what Cary was saying. I think one of the things that we have been doing since the very beginning of working from home is to have a daily video meeting with the whole company. So every day for 10 minutes at between 8:45 and 8:55, we do a quick stand-up meeting where we ask everyone to join, and ideally over video, so we can see each other and experience each other as a company and say, like, we are still a group of people, we are a community, and we have done this before, and we will do it again. And we do it to do 3 things. We do it to share key information, of course, financial information, health and safety, psychological support, which is crucial. But we also do it to, really make sure we structure people's day so that people have a sense of, when does my day begin? And okay, there's a formal moment where we're all in it together, and then everyone goes into their different meetings. But it's just important for routine and structure to have a moment together. And for seeing people's faces, I use it sometimes to just kind of click through the different pages of video to see, how's Alessandro doing? How is this person doing? Are they looking worried? To then maybe also follow up and say, hey, is there anything we can do to you or help? So that's a very practical thing that we've been doing.
How engaged are you as a leader, Felix? I mean, are you enjoying your job right now?
Well, I think enjoying would be a very strong word. I don't think I'm enjoying this, but I wouldn't want to do anything else right now. And I feel very alive. I feel I'm learning new things. Maybe things I don't want to learn, but I feel some sort of intensity of this, and that keeps me awake, both from a pure adrenaline point of view. I think what I'm trying to role model with C-Space is really that leaders have to look after themselves very well. So I try to sleep very well. I try to eat very well. I have a therapist I speak to every week, which I think is really important for me to have an outlet. I've got my family around me, so I'm not worried about them, which allows me to focus more on the company. So I try to give permission for people to do these things so they can look after their teams well, ideally.
Have you seen a change in the levels of engagement and productivity amongst your employees over the past few weeks? And because at the beginning it felt like there was this kind of collective energy and this pulling together, and now it feels like the novelty's worn off, fear is setting in. How do you think that's going to pan out over the following weeks?
Well, we've been trying to message from the beginning that this is a marathon and not a sprint, and for people to pace themselves and to think carefully about their energy and to not bleed work into life so much. Because if you work from home, the danger is that you just work into the night and you don't have the commute to delineate work from home. I used to cycle every day to work and back from work. It was the best mental cleanser ever. So I think we have seen a drop in productivity, because I think if you do things over video, it takes more time. Reading body language, emotional cues takes more time to get to a conclusion. So the day is longer because you get to decisions slower. But I think the biggest impact will be, potential mechanisms like furloughing or other mechanisms to deal with COVID will have a negative impact on morale and how people feel about work. So I think the other elements that the news, we've also said to people, don't, watch the news only once a day. Don't watch it. Don't have the TV in the background, because it will just pollute your mind. So those things will inevitably become more prominent and have an impact on productivity.
I think I think this furloughing thing may be a problem in the end because some will be furloughed and some will not be furloughed. That might cause a certain amount of difficulty down the line. I'll tell you one positive. I agree with everything Felix said, by the way. So all of that, I think, is going to happen, and this definitely is the long haul. It's not a short haul. But I'll tell you what I think is really interesting is the revelations, the openness of people now. Now that we're talking to each other as people, we're talking about our kids. We're talking about our, how you're worried about your father or mother who's poorly. And we're becoming slightly, yes, it is stressful, and the longer it goes on, it will be stressful. Some people will suffer from what we call the common mental disorders of depression, anxiety, and stress. No question about that. People who can't cope or don't have the support systems, everything else. But what I'm observing in a lot of organizations I work with is that there's a much more openness about who you are with your colleagues. You know why?
Yourself to work.
We're all in this together, aren't we, Felix? I mean, I'm just as liable to die from COVID as you are, and maybe slightly more because I'm older than you. But the point is, in this kind of a scenario, I'm noticing that the teams being more revealing than they normally just play their role out with their colleagues. Yeah. I'm seeing much more. I just came back from a 1-hour webinar with the National Forum for Health and Wellbeing, made up of 40 global companies. I'm the chair of it, and it's all HR people and occupational health people. They're brilliant. People are just talking about themselves, about their families, about how they feel. I think it's wonderful. That bit of it is wonderful. I guess the worry I really have is I hope that line managers actually look after, as Felix said, what he's doing is talking to people every day. We need people who are in line management roles from shop floor to top floor to ensure that their staff are coping. And that requires a lot of openness.
We have done some work with consumers in US, UK, and Germany just yesterday, what the positives might be that come out of the COVID crisis. And the top 3 unaided mentions is I've got more time with my family, more time with my parents, more time with my children. There's less pollution in my city. There's more space for cyclists. There's more kind of awareness of the good things that are happening to me. So there is actually quite a lot of awareness of the positivity of it. And I think capitalism, when it comes back, won't be able to put all of these things back into their boxes, but people will be a bit like, well, remember the time I had with my children? It was tough, but actually, they're missing me now. And I think people will hopefully be a bit more human. The question is, how strong will be the economic impact to allow us to kind of remember some of the humanity, or will it become quite intense and then we are losing our humanity again in that process?
But you know what I think may happen, Felix, and I totally agree with you. That's going to be a trade-off between economics versus the quality of life issues for people. But guess what I think will happen, and particularly with the millennials, they'll see this period of time. They have young families and everything else. They're saying exactly what you're saying, and the evidence is mounting. They're saying that. They're saying, I want a good quality of life now. This will push it even further in that direction. So for the employer, if they want to retain good talent of that generation, they better change. And if they don't change, that's a bottom line issue for them. They'll lose good people. Because I think what this thing has done for everybody, what this health crisis has done, is made people reflect. What do I want? I want to work. I want to work. I enjoy it. But I want a good quality of working life. And I think that's going to be a big issue for attraction and retention of people.
Yeah.
For those business leaders and bosses that are struggling to keep their workforce engaged, can you each offer a few practical tips?
Yeah, I'll take it. I think something that we have done very practically, we have said to everyone, we'll give you 75 quid to buy anything, any kind of equipment that you need to work better from home, whether it's kind of a wireless headphone, whether it's a new desk or a stand. It's just something that makes it easier for people to work because they work from their flats, from their homes, and our homes have not been made for working from home. So that's just a very practical thing to just have a better workstation. Secondly, we have made some counselors and therapists available for some of our staff who felt they would like to speak to someone, and you don't have to have a mental health crisis to find that useful. And we had a good uptake on folks who say, okay, I want to speak to someone over video, and we are kind of looking into covering the first couple of sessions to kind of get them out of a particular hole they might be in. And more from an engagement point of view, I do believe routine meetings, ritual meetings. So we do the daily meeting, and we have every Friday, we have what we call Friday at 4, a get together where we celebrate any new wins from a client point of view, any great work that people have done, and we do shout outs. So we say, I want to nominate Kate for being awesome because she's helped our client in this way, and we're doing public kind of appreciation. And those things so far seem to be working, but you would have to ask CSpace employees on what of the stuff that I've been talking about is actually sticking and working for them.
Yeah, I think I agree with Felix that really a daily meeting is probably a really good idea. But you can also have a fun meeting. By the way, you're working from home, you have your family. Why not an afternoon tea at 3 o'clock with everybody there? Have a piece of cake in your own house, or cookies, or whatever you have. Have a tea with your colleagues and their kids. Mm-hmm. I just think, let's. This is humanity. We have been sent a message. This is the reset button.